Good morning from the Human Biography podcast. I've got my great friend Todd. Now, Todd is going to tell me about his work, his life, but a lot of things that he's working on that really have to do with giving back. Todd, welcome to the Human Biography podcast.
Thanks so much. Great to be here.
Now, Todd, you and I met earlier this year at TED, and I've gotten to connect with some incredible humans through the TED community, and then we got to hang out in New York, and I got to learn a little bit about your work, but more about some passionate sort of projects that you work on, including the Peace Studio. And I wanted to let my audience know more about the Peace Studio and your passion towards that, and tell us a little bit about that. Yeah.
Sure. So the Peace Studio was founded in 2016, although it represents the confluence of two organizations, the Peace Studio and a group called Images and Voices of Hope, which existed for about 20 years prior to the Peace Studio's founding. And it really brings together a group of people who care about storytelling, including those who have worked for years with journalists, but also a group who have been very invested in the lives and the experiences of performing artists and visual artists, all of whom care about peace building and who believe that the arts and journalism writ large can all contribute to social justice and the building of peace.
Can you tell me sort of the premise and work that Peace Studio does? Yeah.
Sure. We have three programs. The first is a fellowship program that gives financial resource, $10,000 to a number of journalists and artists who have a specific project they're working on that they're excited about, where they just sort of need that additional level of support to get it done. But also in that connection, they get a lot of support and educational opportunities where they learn about restorative narrative, which is a big concept that we impart. They learn about sort of self-development and in particular self-reflection, meditation practices that can help ground us before we sort of go out into the world and do our work. So that's the fellowship program. Along similar lines, there's two conferences we hold. One is called Artist, the Artist as Catalyst, and the other is the Journalist as Citizen. And both of those are week-long conferences with a select group of attendees who benefit from these educational opportunities, who learn about restorative narrative, about self-reflective practices, but also about just like how to make a living. Because for a lot of performing artists and even journalists, they're often kind of piecing it together, in ways that are successful, but also challenging. And so we try to give them trainings around financial literacy and around building their career, their brand, et cetera, that can help them in a sort of very pragmatic way so that when they're out there doing the good work in terms of peace building, they're also making a living and have the support they need.
It's totally true. Living as a creative, we're so into our work. We're so into taking on projects that are interesting to our heart, our soul, our talents, that we do forget about some fundamental pieces that might not be readily in our periphery. So I believe it's super important to have that, and that's a great support system. Um, I recently, when we spoke, you talked about a children's book, and I want to talk about a little bit about the children's book and how we can share that with our audience as well. Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I worked recently on a book called The First Day of Peace. It's a children's picture book. I had the great fortune of working with a wonderful co-author named Maya Sotoro Ing. She's also the co-founder with me and some others of the Peace Studio. And she wrote the afterword for the book, and she also coached me in writing the book and even coached me in how to read the book to children because she's an amazing educator. And it's a book that's a parable. It's telling the story of the mountain people and the valley people who are quarreling over resources. And they're not getting along very well. First, there's a drought, then there's a really bad flood, and the valley is just like decimated by this flood. But they're still not getting along, and so there's not enough food to eat in the valley. The mountain people are doing okay. They're still fighting until a little girl on the mountain says, "We have to help." And once she makes that pronouncement, the mountain people decide to tune into their better angels. They descend into the valley with offerings of food and clean water, et cetera.
Yeah.
And it creates the first day of peace. And from there, the parable shows uh, just how beautiful that can be for people, because when you're sharing and when you're generous and compassionate, it both feels good and is meaningful, but also the dividends are that people want to reflect back that caring. So it's a story for young people that hopefully parents will enjoy reading to their young ones, and together remember what it means to be generous, to be kind, to be of service to others, and what that can portend in good ways for a community.
I think as a society, talking about, world tragedies and things that are happening all around us constantly, is that we have to be aware that we are our own voice singularly could actually affect and help others. And I think this is a story for everyone. Actually, it's probably something deeper than just than children just diving into it. But I think it's something that, as a father of two, I think about, what lessons we can teach our children. But there's also, like, for me, saying it is one thing, but watching, like, from a children's book, something they could rationally really enjoy and kind of really take on, it's probably a better way to teach them. So I really appreciate that, and I look forward to sharing some images of that as well to the audience here, so they can and they can get that on Amazon, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, we'd love them to buy it on Amazon, but also at their local bookstore, independent bookstores. If you go to the Penguin Random House site, the book was published by Candlewick Press, but it's distributed by Penguin Random House, and so you can see all different booksellers and choose your
Yeah.
favorite one. There's beautiful illustrations in the book by a woman named Tatiana Gardel. She's Brazilian born,
Yeah.
lives in the New York area, and just really caught the spirit of the text, but also created really subtle touches, often to show just how similar the mountain and valley people are, even if they are distinct in certain ways, including a cute little doll that kind of is a motif across the book. And you see the doll held by children in both camps, and it suggests, that we are all one, and that
Yeah.
humanity is we tend to look for differences and distinctions, but we really are all human beings sharing a planet. So
When I first got a chance to meet you, we talked about our work, and this is not your main work, but this is something that's passionate to you. Why is this kind of work with the Peace Studio important to you? Like, what led you towards this? Yeah.
sure. Well, I think we all in our lives experience some margin of trauma across our lives. We
Yeah.
also, sadly, sometimes encounter violence. I've certainly seen both. And if we inform our lives by those traumas, as opposed to allow them to, undo us, or, send us the way of substance abuse or other ways that people cope, but if we allow them to inspire us and to hopefully become part of the stories we tell and the ways that we try to heal ourselves and others, the world becomes a much more gentle, caring, compassionate, cool place.
Yeah.
So that kind of thinking, together with having met Maya Soturo, who is an inspired leader, and she speaks about the importance of kind of creating peace inside of yourself first, that if you do that work, you become more effective in your friendships, your relationships, and
Yeah.
in turn, that kind of trickles out into the community and even geopolitically, so that uh, decision makers and leaders, rather than trying to use their power over people, want to share their power, want to share resources. Something I love about you, I'll just say, is that whenever I've gotten together with you, you say, "How can I help? What can you know? What? How can I be of service?" It's that kind of thinking and that spirit of watching out for someone else that makes such a difference in the experiences we all have together. So anyway, with Maya's thinking along those lines, I just thought, how can we get these ideas out there in the world, and thought that the P Studio could use storytelling, the work of famous and profound, and incredibly successful artists, but also young people, up and comers who are so committed to this work, together to get out the message. So
It is such a collaborative opportunity for so many people to come together, and there is a just cause to actually bring happiness and peace into the world. Just to sort of backtrack, when I was a kid, we would go to people's homes. We'd have like family dinners all the time. And I remember my mom, who really put this into me, and it starts at home. She'd be like, when you're at their house or when you're going somewhere, go into the kitchen and always ask if you can help. And that was something that, like, to this day, like oddly enough, like I will be in like public places and there'll be something going on to the side, and I will say, "Hey, do you need some help?" Or and for me, it became an automatic sort of thing that I would sort of. It's not something that just came out of my mouth. It's something that I feel like I can be of service. Even my children can be of service, and I've been sort of doing that with my own kids as well. Um, because I feel like, it serves two ways. It's definitely there to help somebody as well, but it's also feeling like you are somebody that can help somebody. You are relevant. You have some importance to give to the world, whether it's a little task that you do or something that is big, that is, carrying something heavy. That's also metaphoric as well. Carrying something heavy for somebody else is that if you are able to, then you should. That's what I've learned in the world, and I feel like that is the work that you are doing. And we as a society. I remember commentary wise, I would always say, when somebody asked me how are you doing, I would have this whole busy sort of mindset of, so I'm so busy, I'm so busy, I'm so busy. But actually, I take away that sort of language now, and I say, I'm there creating some beautiful things for others. In turn, it does make my heart happy, but I'm doing it for others. I want people to see this. I want people to know about you. I want people to understand that if you are capable and able, then you should. And then I think that's the work that we all need to be doing. So I really appreciate the beautiful gesture of the Peace Studio, and just being there as another beacon to show people that we're here to help. We're here to share opportunities and resources to each other. So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Really appreciate that. And one of the beautiful things about the Peace Studio, besides what I already mentioned, is that
Yeah.
occasionally we just get together and sort of jam. And we've had a couple summits, and they're really magical, including one that you can find on our website that was recorded during lockdown. No one, was permitted to show up in person,
Yeah.
but a number of just incredibly gifted up and coming artists contributed songs, dance
Yeah.
numbers, theatrical monologues, and then people like Ted Danson and Yo-Yo
Wow.
Ma and others just gave of themselves in the most beautiful way. So it was
Wow.
very touching, and you can see it online. It's really impressive and reflects just like everything we're talking about in terms of people just being willing to give and sort of show up at a
Yes.
time when people were pretty, you know, disrupted and
Sure.
were struggling a lot. And it was very heartwarming and sort of reassuring. So I recommend it, but also something I'm proud of in terms of the Peace Studio's work. So
How can the public connect with the Peace Studio and help the Peace Studio? Yeah.
thanks for asking that. If you go to our website, thepeacestudio.org, you'll see a number of ways in which you can connect with us. We always need funds, and certainly go to the donate button and give if you can, but
Yeah.
also just come to our events, email any of us. We'd love to have folks participate, and also apply for fellowships and to participate in both of the conferences that we host.
Is there anything upcoming that we can share?
So I would say there's a couple things upcoming. All of the things I just mentioned will happen again in early 2024. So
Awesome.
watch for, we just sort of gave out our most recent fellowship grants, but they're coming again soon. So if you watch our website, you'll see when those applications are allowed to come in. Send your friends our way. If you are yourself an artist or a journalist, please apply. We like to have as many applicants as we can so that we can be as thoughtful and discerning and giving them out as possible. So
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Todd. I will share all the links and some of your work out there. And I appreciate your time, and thank you for being on the Human Biography podcast.
such a pleasure. Thanks so much.